I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this is Outside My Window. One of the integral parts of any vital community, believe it or not, is community theater. And we're very fortunate in this area to have a vibrant community theater. And Quinn and I in the past and continue to talk to a lot of the very talented artists involved in community theater. Now, James Turpin has lived in Yarmouth all of his life. He's been involved in community theater since 2005. Over the past couple of years, he's also found a little niche for himself as a music video director for musicians right across Nova Scotia. And you probably guessed it, James is our guest. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's exciting. Thank you.
So let's go back just a few years.
Sure.
So when did you start becoming interested in community theater?
From memory, the first thing that I did was, as you say, 2005. I would have been in grade 10, I think. And our drama teacher that year, Lauren Cook, got us to do a little dinner time lunch theater presentation at the Arc. It's the first time not quite the first time I'd set foot in the building, but the first time I'd been on stage or backstage anyway. And it was a little excerpt from an old Greek tragedy called Oedipus Rex. And myself and two other people, we were in the chorus, the Greek chorus that stands by, and they all together in unison, they speak some exposition and explain what's going on in this little clip. So that was the first time I still remember setting foot, stepping out onto the wings, from the wings onto the stage for the first time there. I mean, that's how they get you. Then you're stuck. And it's been, I've been working off and on a whole bunch of different roles there, volunteering there and working there since 2005.
How was the transition from being on stage to doing technical? Because I know you more from the technical side than the on stage side.
No, sure. So in I think it would have been 2010 or so, I started just helping out with lights. Kevin Valley tended to do most of the lights at the time. And I took on, I told Randy Muse, another director there at the Arc, sure, I'll do lighting for, I think it was Dracula was the first one. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I went in very, very enthusiastically. And I remember right coming up before one of the rehearsals, I was slowly getting things ready. And Kevin just kind of looked at me, he's like, here, let me give you a hand. And then in about 3 minutes, we had done what I'd been trying to do for the past hour. It just kind of like showed me how to do it. And thankfully, over the next few years, I kind of slowly started learning a bit more and more. And I was going to say there's no shortage of actors. That's not quite true, but there are definitely more people who want to be on stage than backstage. So that tends to leave little vacuums in like the lighting positions or the sound, whatever you have, you even directing. When you're spending all your time there, you tend to just start doing what needs to be done. And I'm still acting. I think I've acted, a few times in the last few years, but yeah, now it's mainly teching and directing.
Now, when I did tech there, it was, I think the first show I did was 1986. It would have been the Salutes to Victory trilogy during that summer. And George Egan and Brenda Tate would have been the principals on that series.
With 440 Productions, was
440
that?
Productions, yeah. And I was doing reel-to-reel, combined with cassette tape
right.
and live effects at the same time. Lighting was done with the old manual lighting board. Yeah. It's not the computerized version. So when you came in, it was all computerized, or did you have the old manual?
More or less. I mean, the board that I learned on, was computerized in some sense. The one that we have now is much more intuitive and I don't know if more computerized is the right term, but it's a lot more modern for sure. Comparatively, again, we're talking community theater, but it's a great little board. Does everything we need it to, and I don't know 80% of what it can do, but yeah, it's amazing how how quickly things change, right? We still do live sound effects as needed. Sometimes it's more appropriate to have like a clapper for a gunshot or what have you, or things falling just outside the room. You'll just chuck a chair around backstage or whatever. But yeah, no, we do a lot. Most of our sound effects now are over the PA system.
I had so much fun with those productions and just doing it with the reel to reel and stuff. Of course, you've got the clicking of on off, and you're trying hard not to let that interfere with the audience. and their setup. Is it all by computer now, other than some of the live stuff that you're doing?
It's either played over a laptop or through just a CD deck that we've got there. Still have the issues of your soundboards. You've got to have it more or less at the level of the audience, so you have an idea what they're sounding. So you're kind of in this little walled off area in the seats. So you still get issues of you can hear the click click once in a while, or someone frantically going, "Tell someone to get on stage! Tell someone to get on," over the headset or what have you. But that's all part of the live theater experience, or at least that's how we have to kind of see it anyway.
Back in the 80s, we had the old FM wireless transmitter headset equipment. So if anybody was talking, of course, it jammed the channel. You couldn't talk simultaneously. And then you had the issue of the old baby monitors. Depending on the weather, if it was foggy and stuff, just like you used to pick up TV 38 back in the day, you wouldn't remember that when you only had 3 channels.
I'm just saying politely.
Yeah, no, but they would jam your channels up as well. But of course, because it's voice activated, you ended up with situations where people would forget that it's voice activated and then go to the washroom.
There you go.
And then all of a sudden it's whoosh, right? You get your own sound effects.
We still have we have issues with that a little bit. I'm not sure what the technology is in the headsets, to be honest, but if there's a particular channel that if we're doing a show at the Yarkham and everyone backstage is on that channel, we'll occasionally get folks chiming in from, as far as we can tell, Canadian Tire.
Oh, really?
Which is quite a distance away.
It is, yeah.
But it sounds very much like the people go look on aisle 3 for whatever. And we think it's Canadian Tire, but I don't know, it's bizarre. So sometimes we have to channel hop and everyone go to channel 3, go to channel 4 or whatever. But yeah, you still get the same issues.
But people don't understand how much fun it is behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. The adrenaline is almost as much as when you're on stage, and more depending. I've been involved in some pretty quick set changes in my time, and seen some that are just you're amazed at how quickly and quietly people are able to get things done sometimes.
When we're doing video, of course, and I do video at the Mariner Center as well as still volunteer for Riesling. One of the things we always told ourselves was that if you make a mistake, make it look like you intended for it to happen that way. And I'm sure unless you go to see a particular production a couple of times, if somebody makes a move, then if you just keep going,
it can happen. I've done that once myself. Well, once as far as I can remember. There was a show I did years ago, 10 years. It was a comedy, and I was playing this young kid, and I was supposed to enter on a line that was, I don't remember the line, but let's say the line is, "Don't talk to me like that." And then I'm there, and I come through the door. So when you're rehearsing, you have your little chunks that you rehearse. So I'm in scene 7 and 14 or whatever. And so you'd just see those scenes more or less. You'd see the whole show a couple times, but I think it was closing night or one of the last nights. I decided I was just going to stay backstage. From end of scene 7, I'll stay backstage and wait until scene 13 or whatever. So I'd never heard all of this and didn't know that my cue line, "Don't talk to me like that," or whatever it was said another time couple pages before. And it may not have been the exact cue line. It may have been, "Don't speak at me this way," or whatever, instead of "Don't talk to me like that." But yes, and so I very confidently opened the door and strode onto that stage and saw 3 people in, the actors not where they should be for when I come in. And it happens, and I just had to, they all kind of turned and looked, and I just I don't remember what I did. In my head, I was very suave about it and said something very witty and left, and no one was any the wiser. In reality, I'm sure they knew something weird was going on. But yeah, live theater. Yeah, long story short, live theater. It's going to happen.
That's when you get your finger slapped by the stage manager, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it was very silly.
Because backstage, they are it. But
they are God.
When we were doing tech, we would be up in the room above.
Yes,
right,
that old room.
which still exists, and
the room exists. Yeah,
but that's where we used to be, and then we'd take the windows out, and then that way we could look out. So a couple of stories I'll weave in, but one story was Terry Kelly came to play, which was nice. But we all know Terry Kelly doesn't see. So he's on stage and he's got his acoustic band, which is fine. So there's him and 2 other guys, and they're playing along. And we were having trouble with the lighting board at that point. And every once in a while, it would just go boop, and the whole thing would die. And you'd be like Fonzarelli on Happy Days. Just give it a tap.
Right.
It'd come back, right? And it's like, it's like doing wedding photography. Please, please, please.
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes.
just one more show, just one more show. And anyway, so his guy was doing the lighting, and he had set the scenes, and we gelled everything all up, got it all set. Wasn't much for me to do except sit there because there wasn't any sound to be done. His own guy for that too. But I was there, and then all of a sudden, right in the middle of a song, boop, the board goes out. Now, Terry Kelly doesn't skip.
Of course.
Of course, he can't see. He doesn't know the lights are out, right? And then I give the lighting board a whack. Luckily, it did come back on. Yeah. The other guys that he's playing with are like looking around, and they just kept going. And then afterwards, of course, we're chatting about it. And he said, it felt like the warmth left the stage for a second and came back. But of course, he didn't know any different. But his other two guys definitely noticed the change, right? But
that's what's important. As long as the guy in charge doesn't realize you screwed up, then you're golden.
The other thing was when we were doing some live stuff for actually Salutes to Victory back in the day. We had very rudimentary connections between the booth and the side of the stage. All we had was 2 1/4-inch connectors on either side. You could send or receive, but that's it. So I had to have a monitor set up for the piano player because the piano player was off stage, and there's no orchestra pit, as you know. So I mean, we had her off stage, but then she couldn't hear the dialogue. So we had a piezo set up, and they could, it would pick up the dialogue from out front, so that it would give her a cue. So her monitor died. Ugh. So it's like, oh shit. And there I go. I actually swear. So the path from that room. You got to go down the stairs, duck, run through the side room, and come out to the lobby. Then you got to go through the lobby to backstage.
Right. So the geography has changed since that has happened. But
okay.
That room where you used to look, you looked over the stage, right?
Yes.
That's actually been walled off the last little while ago.
Oh, really?
And that's now part of an extension of our costume room up there now. But no, gotcha. It's kind of funny how things have changed in that old building.
So the stairwell went all the way down, and then there was like a costume room on the bottom. But the doorway was much shorter, so you had to kind of duck to get through that, and then you came out into the lobby, just off the far corner of the lobby, and then you had to cross the lobby and go through the back hallway.
I'm following you now. Yeah, I'm following you.
And in and up and around. Yeah, 12 seconds, and. It was quite a sprint, and I don't run, but in those days I was much skinnier and a little bit more agile. But when you try to
boot it,
just got to boot it and get back there, and then pray that everybody's in the right positions, so that you don't bowl anybody over when you try to do that.
I had to do something similar once. I was working backstage. I wasn't in charge of the show. It was one of the ACT Awards, the yearly kind of celebrations.
Oh yes,
of whatever. And my wife was performing a song. This would have been, I don't know, the mid 2010s, early 2010s, and we'd mic'd her up. We'd got and we put it was a wireless mic, so there was a belt pack, and just behind her on her back we'd attach the clip and the mic pack, and we sent her out into the lobby. So then she went out. She'd come up into the main entrance, and she'd walk through the audience.
Yeah.
We send her out. All right, that's done, perfect. And then we realized that we hadn't turned the pack on. So I had to boot it from backstairs, down to the construction room, out by the hallways, out into the lobby, up there. And she had sung her first note, and I just managed to get right behind her, click, turn it on. And yeah, so I was late by 1 note. But again, it's live theater.
It is. I don't know if you ever had an opportunity to work with Bruce Rainey.
I didn't know that was before my time.
Yeah. So Bruce did some productions. Bruce was well known for improvising some of his stuff. And so in one scene, he turns an old radio on, and there's supposed to be a newscast on, particular piece of the script. We play it. I found an old radio, speaker still worked, hardwired it in to the side of the stage, and it was fine. So he picks up the radio, comes over to the table, click. I mean, the switch works. Click, turns it on. I'd play the newscast. He'd get to his cue. He'd turn it off in disgust, and you know the scene goes on. And I thought to myself when I was getting that recorded, because I went down and I had Raise Inc. back in the day record it for me at the radio station, and I said, "Look, do me a favor, keep going. I don't care what you say.
Yes, vital.
I don't care what you make up." I said, "But just keep going. Give me another 30 seconds or so on it, just in case." And because knowing Bruce Rainey as I know, I figured one of these nights he's just not going to turn that thing off. And then what am I supposed to do? If I don't get the click, I can't cancel the effect, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, we get down to the end of the run, and he decides he stares me right in the eye. I know he's looking at me, and lo and behold, he waits.
Right.
And he waits, and he waits, and Ray just keeps talking. And then Bruce cuts me a little smile, and then he turns it off, and we keep going. But,
Cheeky little bugger.
oh yeah, but I mean that's it's the camaraderie that people, personally, that was the thing that I enjoyed the most about working in theater.
It's the community part of community theater, and like we all do it to put on a good show. We all do it to. Hopefully we work hard, to make sure that an audience has fun. Sometimes we succeed, but that's what you're aiming for. That's always your goal. But you can't forget that the community part of it is just as important. Some would say more important. The experience of, 5 or 20 or 30 people putting together a show has an absolute, indelible impact on their lives. Doing this stuff has had a huge impact on my life. I know that, and I know I'm not the only one. And I don't know, it's something that I always try and remember anyway. It's the community part that is just as important as the theater part. You've got to have a good time. You've got to keep things going, and you've got to be stern sometimes, something that I am not great at sometimes. But, you've got to make sure everyone's having a good time and everyone's enjoying the community aspect of it. Anyway.
And that plays to the audience because, people want to see people they know, right? I mean, if you're going to go to a community theater and see the farce or catch a Christmas show or whatever it is, seeing people that you know up on stage.
Well, that's part of it too, for sure. And you want to see those people having fun. I mean, we've all been part of productions that just by the end you're working really hard to get at, and it's very stressful. And sometimes you can tell when the backstage experience just isn't, hasn't been as collaborative or as joyful as you would wish it to be. And you can tell that. But if there's been a positive experience, if for everyone involved in the production, if they've been having fun, you can see they're having fun. And like you say, that translates to audience enjoyment. Absolutely.
Well, people have an opportunity to be challenged in their roles as well. I mean, it is quote unquote acting. So, to have somebody who might be customer service oriented during the day. So they're used to, talking to people and keeping them happy, having a smile on their face, and then come up on stage and be a complete asshole. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's an alternate reality for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it allows them to stretch, and not just for the actors. I mean, actors tend to get all the the limelight, literally. They're the ones in the spotlight, but even someone who is perhaps, as I was when I started, extremely shy, right? Very withdrawn, not confident at all. When you have that expectation of, okay, here's your role, here's what we're going to do, here's the script, and whether it's on stage or backstage, press the buttons for these cues, whatever you're expected to do, you're stepping outside of your role in life, let alone your role as in acting, and that can be a very positive thing.
One of the most challenging things, I would think, I mean, acting, directing, all of that is challenging. I'm no expert, so I really can't comment, I guess. But would be to take you know, what I consider a masterwork like Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol, and you look at that and you say, I want to take that and kind of put myself into it as you are. So where do you start in that process?
Well, it was a very practical decision, to be honest. We had decided, Judy, the executive director at the Arc, she and I had been talking. We decided that I'd do Christmas Carol for the next year. We'd started planning a year in advance. So the first thing you do is you order some scripts, and we looked around and ordered. I mean, the original novella of A Christmas Carol is now in the public domain, so there are umpteen different adaptations of it. So we ordered a whole bunch, 7 or 8 of them, I think. And except for one, all of them were 1 act long. Now, the novella is short. It's a novella. It's not a full novel. But you can't do justice to it in 1 act. The scenes, they skipped through it lightning fast. And so I ended up finding one single 2-act long adaptation of it. Hallelujah. Thank goodness. Is adapted by John Mortimer. He wrote one of my favorite British TV series from the 70s to the 90s, Rumpole of the Bailey. So I thought, oh, perfect. I know this writer. This will be beautiful. What I do with all my scripts is the ones that I haven't written, I will type them all out just for the experience of taking the time to type it all out. And it gives me more of a granular look at the script. So I started typing it out. And about halfway through, I just realized it was not a good adaptation. He had done it for the Royal Shakespeare Company in the 90s. They had commissioned him to do the work. And it was just essentially copy and pasted the dialogue from the novella and then added a Greek chorus, back to the Greek chorus. He added a Greek chorus of people singing. And as I was going through, I thought, okay, we can take out the singing, whatever. And then I was just left with a 1-act play again. So, long story short, after all of this, I decided it's in the public domain. It is totally legal to write your own adaptation. I'm just going to have to do it. So I did. The beginning of it was just a purely practical decision that we need a script. I've decided to do this show. I've got 12 months, time's ticking. I need a script. I really enjoyed adapting it, and I didn't think I would. I thought I'd find it kind of just cumbersome and frustrating. But being able to put your own spin on a few things was very interesting. The novella has a couple, I wouldn't say flaws, but when you're trying to adapt it to a 2-act structure, it has some, I'll say it has some flaws. Scrooge's redemption in the original novella, in my opinion, comes way too quickly to be effective as a live narrative. In the novella, Marley's ghost, of course, to anyone familiar with the story, Marley's ghost appears to him and says, 3 ghosts are going to visit you. This is your chance to smarten up. And then the ghost of Christmas, past, present, and future all show up. By the time he's by the time he is about 2 pages into the first ghost, he's already expressing, oh, I wish I'd been better to my Bob Cratchit. Not even 2 pages. I think it's on the first page. And when an audience is watching a show where they are expecting that they're going to watch a transformation over about 2 hours, 90 minutes, over 90 minutes, you can't show that transformation at minute 20. So there are things.
Thank you for coming.
Right, exactly. It ruins the pacing. So one of the major things I did is kind of stretch out Scrooge's reluctance over the 90 minutes and had it kind of appear more appropriately, or at least I hope more appropriately. The audience, of course, will really be the judge of that, I guess.
Classics like Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol and many others. I mean, really, that's what the creative arts are all about, isn't it? Is taking a piece of work, whether it's a masterpiece like Dickens or not, it's being able to look at that and take that and work with it as an independent artist or director or writer like you.
I think so. I mean, not to get too highfalutin about it, but like you can say, you want to put your own stamp on it, or you want to you can get all artsy fartsy about it, but just from a practical point of view, if the audience is coming to see something, you don't want to show them what they've seen 19 times before. I mean, there have been hundreds of adaptations of A Christmas Carol, and there are several, probably about a dozen major ones that people are to lesser or more degrees familiar with. Why just show them the exact same thing? Why not put your own spin on it? That's how I see it anyway. And hopefully people won't revolt over a minor change or two.
Have you localized some of the content as well?
No.
You put any spin on it? It's still got that.
Still in London. It's still, the language is still, I mean, it's not Shakespeare in terms of how
Thank
formal
goodness.
and strict it
I
is.
mean, yes, okay.
Yeah, no, I sympathize, and I know many others who do as well. But no, the language is still, like, it's not, we've not brought it to 2020 and set it in Yarmouth or whatever. It's still London. It's still approximately the mid 1800s is what we're aiming for in terms of era, though even the original is, vague about that. That was just when he happened to write it. But no, it's definitely the traditional classic version of A Christmas Carol. Nothing wrong with doing it, let's put it in New York in the 30s or whatever.
Sure.
No problem. That's excellent.
Been done.
But I'm sure it has been. Yeah, exactly. It's not what we've done. We've done the traditional.
right.
We've done it more traditional for sure.
I was kind of hoping for an Owen and Jerry version.
Why not? I'm sure Mark Turkey's got nothing on his plate right now.
I'm sure that would be just an appropriate spin to it, but no, and that's good. Like I was saying before we went on record, was that my favorite version, similar, it's also my grandmother's favorite version, my dad's favorite version, was the Alastair Sim. I don't know if you call it adaptation, but it's that version of it in video.
1951.
And but like you say, there's been dozens and dozens of different things. You've got Henry Winkler, you've got a whole bunch of other stars that have done a variety of different takes on that. So how do you add a different flair to it to kind of give us something, just maybe a couple little surprises? Are there any?
I think so.
Yeah.
There are a couple scenes in particular where I decided to. I mean, I don't want to spoil things, but I'm quite proud of what we've done with our Mr. Fezziwig scene, the classic character Mr. Fezziwig. I'm quite proud of what we did with that scene. There are. I mean, we haven't changed things, but in the original novella, there are scenes where, for example, the ghost takes Scrooge to a village in Wales, and they see some miners. I think it's Wales, and they hear coal miners, and then he takes them out to a lighthouse even, and those scenes are never usually shown in any of the adaptations. So you have to, you just have to put something else in their place, and I've done a couple things. I've added a couple scenes that are in the spirit of those scenes anyway. They show the spirit of those scenes, but they're a bit more doable on a small stage. Put it that way. And it just little. We haven't. There are excerpts of dialogue that people will definitely recognize for sure. But we definitely didn't just copy and paste the book, so to speak. We tried to put our own spin on things. And when you speak about putting a different stamp on Scrooge himself, what you're going to get a different stamp on the main character in every version, just because there are different people playing him. Inevitably. I mean, Alastair Sim, a lot different than Michael Caine in the Muppets version, for example, things like that.
Now there's a classic.
There is, that is, people love that version.
I know.
And I can't say I disagree. I really like that one. The Alastair Sim as well is a great one, of course. But our actor, our fellow playing Scrooge, Stephen Arnold, I really think people are going to like what he does here. He's
Now, is that him on the poster?
It is him on the poster.
Get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he really looks the part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some people, you stick some mutton chops on him, and it's like, well, okay, sure. But he looked the part as Scrooge for sure in that photo, and he is excellent in the lead role. I really hope people will come out just to see his performance. He's really good.
Now, you've brought us a clip. which we're going to play. It's just audio, of course, but does it require any setup?
I'll just briefly set it up. This one features the Ghost of Christmas Present, played by Sarah Fells, and she is speaking with Scrooge, played by Stephen Arnold. I think this is towards the end of her section of the show, and she is speaking. She's imploring Scrooge to perhaps look deeper within himself. I think would be a good way of summing it up.
All right, so let's listen.
It was such a small thing for them, wasn't it, for the Fezziwigs, to make those around them so happy.
Small. They lost their livelihood and wasted no end of money.
It wasn't with money that they bought the love of their friend Scrooge, and it wasn't for their money that they were praised. It was for their open and loving character. You know this, somewhere within yourself.
Do you not think that I envy that ability, Spirit? I do, deeply. That man had the power to make all around him happy with merely a word or an encouraging look. None of that troubles would show in that joyful face of his, not one. Some men are born with this ability, some are not. I made peace with that long ago.
Have you, Scrooge? Have you truly made peace with this? Or is there hope of change yet?
James, it's interesting what you were saying about kind of keeping that original theme that Dickens had about, the good and the bad and trying to be a better person. And you're doing that in your own very unique way. And I just wanted to ask you about what you thought that you saw as far as a positive message from that original play. You've got the young Scrooge who falls in love with a beautiful young woman, and you think they're going to be off happily ever after. Then he realizes that he's really in love with money. I mean, it's a tragedy. It really is.
It really is.
And then the Ghost of Christmas Present and future. I have to say this. I played many years ago Christmas Carol, and we used to play at the different schools. And I had the pleasure of playing the young Scrooge,
Right.
and the Ghost of Christmas Future,
Right.
The big scary guy.
Yep.
So I think we were playing at the old Hebron school, and so I'm all dressed in the black cloak, and of course I come out of this. I don't know if it's gabardine or what they use in this black, and I was supposed to pull it apart and walk slowly out. Of course, there's no script, there's no talking, and I got caught. And I'm thinking, well, this wasn't rehearsed.
Whoops.
What am I going to do?
Right.
And the chap that was directing at the time, nice young fellow by the name of Tracy. And I'm thinking, oh, don't ruin this.
Right.
Don't ruin this play. And there were a couple of chuckles in the audience from people that I knew, but I tried not to, haul the whole set down.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that messaging and those things that can go wrong, can happen that make live theater really live and fun.
Yeah, you're always on the edge when you're watching theater. There's 5% of the enjoyment of live theater is just knowing that at any second this could go horribly wrong. And of course, there's nothing worse than being in the audience, especially when you are a performer yourself, or the folks on stage, and that someone is desperately searching for a line, or that a set piece is wobbling and it might fall on someone. There's nothing worse than that feeling, but there's nothing better than the feeling when they write it and they are back on track. It's such a relief. It really is. Yeah. But the show itself, yes, the message behind it is, as you say, the show could absolutely be a tragedy. Scrooge's life is a tragedy until, by grace, he's allowed this opportunity to turn his life around, and essentially the ghosts just come and offer him perspective. And really, I mean, couldn't we all use a lot more perspective in our lives? But of course, it's that classic story of someone having their eyes on the wrong prize, their goals are wrong, they get myopic, and they just don't understand the effect of their life and their actions on other people. And you don't want to get corny about it, or I don't want to get corny about it, but there's that feeling it gives you hope to think that we all have a chance to change it around. We all have a chance to say, no, I will not be the man that I was, to quote Scrooge, I will not be this man. I have decided to change. And there's real hope and optimism in that. And as much as I like to be a cynical old pessimist, grumpy old pessimist or whatever, that hope is just such a positive thing. Of course, I think that's what I hope that's what people will take away from the show, for sure.
It's never too late to make an adjustment, right? Whether it's a lifestyle change, a diet change. Oh, I really need to exercise more. I need to lose a few pounds. I need to quit smoking. Anything that, that needs to be adjusted. It's never too late to make a change.
Right. And it takes work.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes...
It's not going to come easy.
No, and frankly, to be able to change in the ways that so many of us need to change, it takes luck. You need to be fortunate enough to have the tools available to you to do it. And of course, the story of Scrooge kind of shows us the optimistic version. All it takes is one nightmarish night and some perspective, and voila, there we go. And of course, it's never that easy. Real life is never as easy as the narratives that were shown in film or TV or what have you. But it does still give us that hope. And if there's one thing we can use more of, it's hope, I think. Not to get too...
And a good laugh.
And a good and a good laugh. And that's the funniest thing. You mentioned that. I've found that the story of Scrooge has a great many opportunities for laughter. I wrote the script, kind of sent it out. All right, let's get to the first read through. I was shocked at how much laughter there was. And it's not a comedy, it's the traditional Scrooge. But I mean, you watch someone like Scrooge, we all know the character, and you see him growl at someone, or you see him yell at someone in a particular way. And because we know the story, we know that he becomes better. Part of your mind just goes, oh, that old Scrooge.
Yes.
Isn't he a character or whatever? And it shocked me how much laughter there is in this, in the show, I think.
The fact that the story is as old as what it is, the theme, the outcome, and the way that he arrives at the outcome, it's still relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as people are people, I think the story will always be relevant. Yeah, that's a good point. It gives us hope.
Yeah. So what's next for you after this?
Oh,
have you planned ahead that far?
What's next for me is opening night. That's what's next for me, Clint. I see nothing beyond that. I'm after this show, I'll probably go back to do another smaller show. I've done a couple bigger shows, but and this is definitely the biggest one I've done. There are it's 31, I think, people in the cast, and plus the backstage, so easily 40 plus people.
Wow.
But no, the next time I do a show, which may be next year, may not be, probably won't be next year now that I think about it, but it'll probably be one of the smaller kind of four-handers kind of shows that I find that I'm more at home in those. I'm a little more comfortable. It's good to stretch your legs and do the big stuff and get outside your comfort zone. But it'll probably be a smaller one. In terms of theater, that's what's up next anyway.
Speaking of comfort zone, how are things going with the music video stuff? I see a bunch of stuff online, which is really cool. You're doing a good job.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks. I didn't think it would be as successful as it is. I mean, I couldn't make a living off of it, just that. But I decided I guess it would have been 2021. I said, okay, I'm going to try and do this. And I had 4 or 5 music videos that year. I'd done 1 or 2 the year before. And then this year I've done 5 music videos for musicians from Halifax, Mahone Bay, Yarmouth, from all over. And I think my threshold of success was if I get 6 gigs, period, throughout the year, perfect, I'll keep doing this. And this year I got 8. 5 of them were music videos and 3 of them were miscellaneous videography gigs. So I can't complain at all. It's been more successful than I thought it would be. I really hope I can keep working there's some amazing musicians in Nova Scotia. Not even Nova Scotia, the Tri-Counties. There's some great musicians. I just did a music video for Rain Over St. Ambrose that will be coming out. I'm not sure when it'll be coming out, to be honest, in the next couple of months, I think. But that's up to them. But being able to work with these bands that I've been listening to for 10 years. And then from Halifax and Mahone Bay, I just hope to be able to continue that and have fun doing it. And hopefully people like them, I guess. You hope anyway.
Well, so far so good. I mean, the comments I've seen online, plus, to be honest with you, from what I've seen, I've been doing video stuff from back in the Viking cable days. So, I mean, it's been 41 years that I've been doing video work, but not the type of stuff that you're doing. Is very similar fashion for the photography I used to do. 'Cause, you'd kind of dabble in family portraits or wedding photography. I just, I tried wedding photography and I said, nope, no. It was
It's not for everyone. It's not my favorite.
It was too much pressure for me because I was shooting film. Well, obviously you don't get that instant look-see, right? You have to have a lot of faith in your equipment, a lot of faith in your eye and settings and so on.
Just hoping your f-stop is right. And
Oh my Lord, a lot of prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
Digital nowadays, it's like, oh wow, that's perfect. Oh no, you blinked, and you can go back and you can shoot it again because you're right there. But even still, no, I do the stuff for fun for a couple of reasons. One is it takes a lot of the pressure off. Two, for me, it allows me to pick and choose the material that I want to do, right? And that's what Gary and I enjoy so much about the podcast right now is that we're not bound by any. We've actually refused sponsors for the simple fact that we don't want to get bound into anything. We don't want any obligations. We're not on a clock. We'll talk for as long as we need to talk for. But also, too, is that we get to pick and choose the people we want to talk to, right?
Yeah, there's great freedom in that.
There is. But it's also the same sort of thing when I do video projects. I still volunteer for Eastlink, but I do a lot of things independently. So I'll shoot it myself, I'll edit it myself, and then I'll send it to Eastlink. They'll air it. Perfect. Gives me a chance to dabble in some of the stuff that I really enjoy. Done a lot with the Pirates of Halifax.
Right, yes.
Oh my God. Those guys are like herding cats.
Yeah, I believe it.
Oh, it's hilarious to watch them go. And the stuff you see in my edits, nothing compared to the stuff that you don't see in the edits. But they're a fun bunch of guys to be around, but then also to a lot of the other events that I pick on, they're projects that are important to me. So I get to do that. But I found, and having had my own business at one point in doing video, you're obligated. It's a paid gig. There's certain expectations that go with that.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's weighing on you a little bit as you do these?
Not as much as I thought it would for years. Like I've been doing short films and various very amateur films for a while. Not quite as long as I've been doing theater, but for quite a while. And I always said, nope, never gonna get a paid gig. I do not want that, the responsibility. But so I thought it would weigh on me. It does a little bit. Suddenly when you send off a final edit and then you have to go, oh, wait, it's not my decision whether it's the final edit or not. Oh, right. And then you find yourself on final draft version 7, and you do start going at some points a little like, oh, okay, I do kind of wish I had a little more control. But that's what it's about. You wouldn't be able to get to work with these great artists and these great musicians and people that I'm meeting if you just said, no, screw it, this is what you get, buddy. Like, it doesn't work that way. And when you're doing music videos in particular, you're not doing something for yourself. You're doing something to show off the artist how they want to be shown. And you can get all like, oh, well, see, I don't like that style, or I don't like that. No, it's not. They're paying you, and they're the ones who are, they're the ones whose work is being shown. I'm technically directing the video, but people aren't going to go look, oh, there's a new James Turpin music video. No, they go, there's a new Kristen Martell song out, and there's a video, or there's a new Rain Over St. Ambrose video, or whatever you have. And you have to put away your ego, and to be honest, having that chance to squash your ego down and learn how to do that, I have learned to appreciate that.
It's a big mental change.
Yep, and worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it. If you can get to that spot where you can just forget your ego, it's a lot more healthy.
I've done one paid gig in probably the last 15 years. Did a commercial. Mind you, it was with my buddies, the Pirates of Halifax, and we were doing a commercial for a rum producer. I won't say who it was, but we went up. We shot for a whole day. It was great. Then came what usually ends up coming, which is all the editing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they had a script, and I thought, oh, okay, fine. Well, here's the, what do you want? Do you want a 30-second or 1 minute
Mm-hmm.
commercial? What are you aiming for, right? So I did the edit based on the script. I thought it was a really cool thing, and it's like, it's like a bucket of scarves. They just start hucking stuff out. No.
Right.
And it's like,
The notes start coming in.
okay, all right. Well, now what do you want to do? All right, it's fine. Normally when I do an edit, if it's something that I really have to edit a lot of, and I don't know what your timetable is like, but I usually gauge about an hour a minute. If it's something that I've got to deal with, if you're trying to match a couple of different angles and you got to line them up, for me it's about an hour a minute. Sure. Okay, fine, because I'm not doing a lot of special effects. I'm not worried about green screen. I'm not doing anything complicated. My shows are very old school that way. It's either bang edits or a couple of fades. Sure. Nothing fancy. An hour a minute, and geez, we're about 50, 60 hours into this thing, back and forth, Zoom meeting. Here's a review. Here's what. No, I think I want to go back to this version. Oh, I want to go back. Yeah, I lost track of version numbers. I gave up on that. But what we ended up with was a 15-second commercial and a 30-second version.
Right.
That's what we ended up with after about 60 or 70 hours of editing.
I believe
and, I'm glad I did it for the process, but it also just reinforces things that no.
Right.
I'm not going back. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, exactly. It can be so stressful, especially when you're dealing with corporate clients.
Yes.
It can be big. I've not really had to do that so much. Mine are about, for music videos, usually 3 to 4 minutes. I'll probably put 30 hours into it. Maybe
But you got to define space, right? You got a song that's already done. You know how you're starting, you know how you're ending.
Generally.
And just
Not always, but generally.
Well, no, I know, but
No, I know.
But you got that 3 minutes and 15 seconds to fill.
Exactly.
Okay, great. You got that space. You got to fill it with something, right?
Yeah, for sure. Music videos, just due to their nature, they have to be faster cuts. They have to be more locations. They have to be a little more eye catching, and they tend to be just so much editing. So
yeah,
so much
and
editing.
the lip sync part of it as well, because if that's part of the video rather than the conceptual
Tends
piece.
to be. Yeah.
Do you do much of the creative end, or if they got the idea, the vision, and they just rely on you to make it happen?
It's tended to be more that they'll come to me and say, "What are your ideas?" So then I have to kind of think of something. I keep a running note in my cell phone of like random music video ideas that I kind of dig into once in a while. But it's always very collaborative, and that's very healthy, and that's something I enjoy a lot. Is that the nature of it being they come to me and say, "What are your ideas?" I'll say some ideas. They'll say, "I like this, not that." Oh, but you've given me this idea, and then we just work on it together.
Do you shoot yourself in the foot by saying, "Oh, we should try this"? Oh, yeah, you know what? That is a good idea.
Oh, and then I'm going, shoot, I have to somehow
and
do this.
now you got to do it.
I haven't yet. I've had one idea that was rejected that afterwards I was very glad was rejected. But no, I've never shot myself in the
get
foot
trapped?
that way. No, not yet. Anyway, give me some wood to knock on.
Yeah.
There we go.
You've put a lot of yourself into this, obviously, when you're adapting something like that, and you've learned a lot. Do you feel at this point compelled to do another project similar to that?
Similar to Scrooge, where interesting. I had never adapted something before. Well, no, I had, but that was in my youth. But as an adult, I'd never adapted something, and not something this big. And as I was 80% done through the Scrooge adaptation, I thought, oh man, next year let's do something else. There's tons of books in public domain. Let's do Treasure Island. Let's do whatever. In that instance, I went to Treasure Island and then realized, oh wait, I'd need about 70 men, and anyone who does
I know some pirates you can borrow.
right, exactly. But anyone who knows community theater knows that the ratio of women to men is you always get way more women interested, and so trying to adapt Treasure Island would be a headache because it has so many different locations, but also it's just not feasible. So I gave up on that idea. I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up adapting something, but it would have to be something well known and cherished, like Scrooge, to kind of make it worthwhile. I think. Most of the scripts that are out there, you can find better scripts than what you can write yourself. So that's kind of my philosophy on it.
James Turpin's adaptation of the classic A Christmas Carol can be seen at the Ark. Give us the show dates, if you would.
We'll open on November 17th. We have 6 show dates, so it'll be the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and the 24th, 25th, and 26th. If you look for A Christmas Carol, you might not find it, but our adaptation is called Scrooge, just to clarify that one.
And if people want tickets,
Go online, yarkplayhouse.com. I understand you can buy tickets directly there, or just pop into the Yark box office. You can give them a call at 742-8150, or just visit them. They're open Tuesday to Fridays, 10 to 5, I believe, and Mondays by chance. And grab your tickets there. From what I understand, and of course everyone says this, but from what I understand, they're selling quite quickly, so you might want to jump on that.
Thanks again, James.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast. Thank you.
I'm Gary Nickerson,
and I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this has been Outside My Window.